So I want to start by asking each of you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath in and then let it out. I want you to envision a world where all high school students graduate college and career ready. I want you to envision a world where all students participate in a positive way in their community, where all students give back to their community, where all students are taught or coached by well-trained adults, where all students are considered our greatest asset, not an ongoing liability, where all students thrive, not just survive. I want you to open your eyes. So that vision contrasts with our society today, where there are profound disparities. When you look at our national high school graduation rate, the graduation rate in high school for white students is 88%. For African American students, it's 76%. If you're African American, you're 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than your white counterpart. And if your family income is in the top quartile, you have a 60% chance of graduating from college. If you're in the bottom quarter, it's only 14%. We don't always invest in our adults, and many of our systems, juvenile justice, child welfare, and even education, are often punitive in our approach to young people. So when I was growing up, I didn't have access to all this technology. So my brother Tim and I, we made up a lot of games. And we quickly figured out, we're both very competitive, that it was best for us to play on the same team against an imaginary opponent and make up the rules. So as you might imagine, we always won, because the rules were tilted in our favor. What we didn't realize was that the rules would favor us into adulthood. As white young men who came from middle-class backgrounds, we had and still have an advantage when compared to our African American or Latino peers or those that come from low-income backgrounds. So I work for a 120-year-old nonprofit that's national in the areas of education, juvenile justice, child welfare, and adolescent health. We're definitely moving those teens from at risk to at promise. And yet, we realize that programs alone aren't enough. So what's the answer? So some people have said it takes a village. Yes, I agree. It definitely takes a village. Community, partnerships. But here's the challenge. After working for 23 years with school leaders and government leaders, I know it doesn't take just any kind of village. So it's not rocket science, but there is discipline and focus. So I want to tell you about the 5 strategies in the village I'm talking about. So the first strategy, the solutions are based on the needs. So as a nonprofit person, I understand how it works. You come up with an idea, you go out there, you convince somebody to fund it, you go back to the school, and you say, hey, here's a great idea, let's do it, it's free. And they say yes, even if it's not quite what they need, because it's free. So think of it this way. Think of a store sale. Have you ever gone to a store and bought something you didn't quite need because it was 75% off? Because it was 2 for 1? I know I have. If we're really going to target whole systems and school districts, we have to focus on the real needs, not the perceived needs of the adults, and what we can fund and make it free. Strategy number 2, we have to align and coordinate everything. So you've probably heard the saying, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So school districts are complex systems. The work is very challenging. It makes it extra tricky if things aren't coordinated, if things are redundant, if things are contrary. In order to really transform a school district and its students, we have to align and coordinate everything. Strategy number 3, quality and accountability always have to win the day. So here's the deal. We often mix up activity and impact. Now I get it. It's harder to measure how well versus how much. We measure how many students we serve or how many hours we serve them. It's more difficult to think about what good did it do. Our village needs to provide quality services that are accountable to student needs and to school goals. We need to know that the services are making an impact. Strategy number 4, we take a school system-wide approach. So what does that mean? It means we focus at the building level and at the district level. So have you ever heard of a district initiative that didn't work? Why? Well, one of the reasons is principals are kings and queens of their own domain. We know that. If a principal doesn't want something to happen, it won't. So if we're going to think about the greatest impact for students, we have to focus at the building level and at the district level. And finally, the 5th strategy. We have to teach the adults to fish. So you've probably heard of the saying about teaching folks to fish. And so I'll just tell you in case, right? So if I fish for you, I can feed you for a day. If I teach you to fish, I can feed you for a lifetime. So that applies to our village. In our village, our temptation is to take students out of the village or to do it for the village. But we know that long-term sustainable results comes from building the capacity of those and the skills of those within the school system, within the village. We take a holistic approach and focus on relationship. So the dysfunction of the adults is never good for the kids. We need to train and support the staff to form positive relationships with the students, to take them and create an environment that's safe, that's supportive, that's interactive, that's engaging, to take students out of their comfort zone into their challenge zone, but not to their panic zone. And we know that social emotional learning is often a hidden factor in academic achievement. So I want to tell you a little story about Normandy, the school district of Normandy, where it has all the disparities, income, race, everything. I'm going to tell you a story about Shana. So Shana is a 6th grader at Normandy, and she was having a hard time at school. She was having a hard time concentrating, and many days she was going to school hungry. She had started to act out and even was hearing voices in her head. Shana was what we called a frequent flyer to the principal's office. She probably missed 1 day a week of school, and she had already been suspended 3 times in the first semester. The teachers that Shana had were wondering, sometimes out loud, what's wrong with you? And so we took an approach where we looked at the needs for Shana. We coordinated the services, and we figured out that group counseling wasn't working for Shana. So we brought in individual counseling. We were able to get Shana up to speed on her vaccinations at the school-based health center, and we gave Shana and her mom a weekly bag of food to address some of the issues. We provided support and training to Shana's teachers so that they would take the framework of what's wrong with you to how can I help you. So with those supports, Shana was doing much better in school. Her grades got better, her attendance was better, she didn't get suspended, and Shana was even feeling pretty good about the fact that if Shana continues on and is a graduate of Normandy High School, she'd be part of the class of 2024. Shana was beginning to thrive, not just survive. Shana and her peers improved, and the Normandy school system moved from unaccredited to provisionally accredited. Now, this is really important for Normandy and its team because Normandy previously was the lowest performing school district in the whole state of Missouri. So I have a call to action for you. We need your voice and we need your support. In a place where there's so many inequities, we need you to go to funders, to go to policymakers, and tell them about an approach like this. You are the village. So I want to ask you to close your eyes one more time. So in our village, needs are met, solutions are based on needs. In our village, we align and coordinate everything. In our village, quality and accountability always rule the day. In our village, we take a school systems-wide approach. And in our village, we teach the adults how to fish. And in our village, all of the students thrive, not just survive. Thank you.